Achieving Success with Olivia Akin. I'm your host, Olivia Akin. Each week, we will discuss the roadmap of achieving your personal and professional success. We give you real-life stories on growing personally and professionally to achieve your life and career goals with the help of some top-notch guests. Today, we are speaking with Neeraja Ganesh. Neeraja Ganesh is a powerhouse in women's leadership and mindset transformation. After a 25-year career in IT, she shifted into purpose-driven work, mentoring women through imposter syndrome, perfectionism, and self-doubt. Twice named a top 100 thought leader by Thinkers 360, she's known for turning insights into action. Her talks on storytelling and strategic networking have inspired audiences at TEDx, Lean In, IEE, and beyond. She's the creator of Trailblazers, a 6-month leadership accelerator shaping the next wave of female leaders. Her work has earned global honors, including Women Tech Network's 2023 Speaker of the Year and a Top 10 Global Corporate Mentoring Award. She's also been featured in Magical 40 at 40 and Mentors Through Aspire for Her Key, and Jobs for Her Foundation. This episode is your front row seat into the mindset and mission of a woman redefining what leadership looks like. You can find Neeraja on LinkedIn by searching Neeraja Ganesh or by going to her website, topmate.io, Neeraja Ganesh. Hello, Neeraja. It's fantastic having you on the show today.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
To start off the show, can you tell me what success means and looks like to Neeraja Ganesh?
Sure. Success for me is being able to understand my priorities and meet those priorities. And everyone understands that priorities change over time at different stages of our life and career. To me, it is important to be able to accept those changes, reprioritize, and being able to still go rearing, and that is success. Now, let me give you an example, right? Throughout my professional career, my family was always priority one. It's always been priority one. And I chose not to take up certain assignments which would have needed me to travel overseas for long periods of time. There were plenty of such assignments available in my early career days. Now I have 25 years of technology experience, after which for the last 7, 8 years, I'm doing what I'm doing today. So I'm talking about the era where there was a lot of, overseas opportunities available to people working in India. Now, not taking them up meant slowing down my learning, slowing down my networking, and hence slow growth vertically in the organization. However, I knew that if I were to take up such assignments, it would mean I would have to be away from my family for long periods of time, and my family couldn't have traveled with me at that time, and that was not acceptable to me. So I prioritized career, but I picked up roles which made me continue to have my priority one, right? Now, over the years, when I felt that my family would be okay with me away for a few weeks, I chose to travel a bit. So this has happened throughout birth of my daughter, her growing up, her teenage years, and then she growing up into a sensible adult. Uh, all of this. Also, when I chose to leave my corporate career, was at a time when I realized that my aging mother and mother-in-law needed me more to be at home than me taking up these travels that I was doing at that point in time. I made the most of every such opportunity, every such transition. And as you called out in my intro, I've gotten listed, and I've actually recently been once again listed as a top thinker by Thinkers 360. So that's 3 times in a row. And I have to also tell you that just before we came onto this call, I got to know that I was showcased on the New York Times Square billboard as one of the top 100 top paid creators. So that is success, not chasing money, fame, designations, but ensuring that I can prioritize and live by my priorities.
Well, congratulations on being in New York City. You're all over the place. You're powerhouse.
Thank you.
Um, But you also brought up a very good point I want to hit on. And I love that story of really identifying not only what success means and looks like to you at each stage, which I recently at a conference actually dug into. So I love that you bring this up of like, you should be evaluating every year, 2 years, 3 years, like where you are and what your priorities are. But for you, as a lot of people grow in their career, new opportunities come up and traveling for work. And there's this big thought process, right, around the fact of like, grind it out, work hard, do what you have to do to elevate and take every opportunity you're given. Do not say no to opportunities. And it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you sat there and said, no, I get that that is a big opportunity, but there's not alignment with the other things in my life that is a priority. So I'd rather pass that up and have the steady momentum. What was that time like where you were going through those thought processes of like, should I take this opportunity? What would I miss? Or what is not, I don't want to use the word consequences, but the domino effect of not taking this versus taking it, while also I'm betting that there were peers of yours or people close to you that were like, what are you doing? So what was that like?
So, I think people who live their life by knowing their priorities, and that itself is a process. Knowing our priorities doesn't come easy to most people. That requires a lot of deep reflection because many people are not very intentional about their careers and lives. Uh, I mean, they're just kind of moving with the flow. They look at everyone around them. Okay, fine. I think the next thing that I need to do is buy a car. The next thing that I need to do is, buy a house. Now, if I have to buy and I have to buy a car and a house, I need so much of money, which means I need the next promotion, right? But why do you need a car and a house if you already have one? Just because your neighbor is buying one more, just because your neighbor is doing world travel, right? So I think getting the list of priorities clear for anyone is a process, right? Um, I think I've been lucky in some ways that I knew it very, very clearly very early on in my life. Okay, so if some of the viewers would like to listen to my TEDx talk, and it's not a plug to listen to that, but a lot of that is available on the TEDx, so we should not be speaking about it here. But I just refer to that saying that every decision of mine, whether it be the choice of the subjects in my college, whether it was getting married to who and where should the person be, the kinds of roles as I discussed, was crystal clear because I knew my priorities well. So when you know that very well, I don't think anything else can shake you because you can always go back to that list wherever it is pinned, right? And you can say, okay, why should I really worry about it? The other person got a promotion. Everybody is asking me, why is it that I'm, kind of, is it really because of priority or is it because of something else? Because we can be sidelined, our, mindsets and our fears, especially as women, our fears can actually make us, take a step back and it may not necessarily be a priority decision. So to kind of ask ourselves once again, why is it that I'm saying no to something like this? And if the answer is here, see, you put it on your priority that this is what you want for the next 1 year. And if you chose something else, then that's going to really get beaten up. Is a time for you to reprioritize. And that answer actually helps you sail through that. And in the long run, I've lived 50 plus years on this planet and 30 plus years of my career. It evens out, right? Those who are running that race at a fast pace, looking behind at you and laughing, had to take some pit stops, and you were able to kind of, go ahead. But you went ahead with a very, very holistic experience of your life and being very happy. Success is secondary, happiness is most important.
And that reminded me of my journey as even I've been growing my business, and I really took the time when we relocated to Alaska during this military tour that my boyfriend's on to go, okay, we're super far away, right, from a lot of friends and family, and it can really be used as instead of a time of looked at as a time of isolation, as opportunities for the business. Well, how do you create those opportunities? And I was like, let's prioritizing on elevating to the business to the next level. What does that look like? How can that be shaped? And I really dug into that. And people were like, why are you spending so much time on this? And like positioning it the way I was. And I said, because the only person I'm competing with is myself. And if I make it to the end of the race, then I've won the race. But just like, we talked about even in the podcasting space, one thing I remind people is it is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And at the end of the day, you have to outlast everyone. That's one of the metrics, right? And why so many people do not last past episode 10. Can you outlast? Do you have the stamina? Do you have the mindset? Do you have that momentum? And when you take all those facets into consideration, you can outlast people. But all of that is important. So when you were talking about that, it also reminded me of my journey and going, okay, what are my priorities? And where do I want to sit? And when we leave here, what do I want my life professionally to look like and the experiences I've had? And one big thing for me that you kind of touched upon was time spent in my business. And I, as we touched upon, momentum of just go, go, go and like sprint it. That's what I did for many years in my career and when I started my business. And I was like, okay, well, as all these other things are now taking shape, I want to be able to be present everywhere. So that cannot mean working 14-hour days, multiple days a week. That means working 6 to 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and making a conscious effort to not be working on the weekend. Well, how does that mindset shift? Make sure that everything still gets done. And so when you look at those things and now putting the tools in, I've been able to go, okay, no, like, yeah, even in a 4-hour recording day like we're having today, I will still only work 6.5 hours because I know exactly where everything falls, what needs to be done. And it's the importance of saying, okay, yeah, I could stay and work later. That's no problem. But will that help me? What will it move the needle? So that being said, I want to go back a little bit. You've spent 25 years building a career in IT, and then you decide to make a major pivot into coaching and advocacy, really. What was the moment you realized that you needed something more aligned with who you were becoming?
Okay, good question. And let me be honest here, Olivia. It was not very intentional, Okay, 25 years done, dusted, let me move on. It wasn't a very profound thought of that sort. In the last corporate stint that I was doing in this organization called as Capgemini, again, I think travel is the one which kind of, has always been a pet peeve for me. I was doing a lot of local travel, of course, within India, but there was a lot because I'm talking about pre-COVID. Nobody thought we could meet like this and it will be a good meeting and it will be impactful. People assume that you need to show up in the cities where you have teams, where you have customers, where you have stakeholders every now and then, and only then you are successful and you can achieve outcomes. So I was doing a lot of that kind of travel. And my mother had to undergo a surgery, and I'm an only child. My father passed away many years ago. So she was advised 6 weeks of bed rest. And, I told my mother, I'll be with you because I wanted her to come and stay with me. Um, and, we live in joint family in India. There are some families where you live with your in-laws. So my husband's parents were also living with us. So my mother was feeling a bit hesitant to come and stay because my in-laws were also with us. So I told her I will take time off and I'll be in the house, so you don't have to worry about it. So I took 6 weeks off, but I had decided that I didn't want to do this kind of travel ever again. So I came out of the project that I was in, and I told my manager and the HR team and all of that, and I was at a very senior position. I said, I want a role which will not have this kind of a travel. Because something within me told me I need to be around for my mother, even if she recovers and goes back home. I didn't think it was ideal for me to be just kind of doing what the job demanded in terms of travel. So they were exploring such roles. And my mother, of course, she had a surgery. She stayed with me 6 weeks. She recovered and she went back to her house. But they were not able to identify a role without travel for me. And in those 6 weeks, I kind of made up my mind that if I do not get a role, the kind of a role that I wanted, I will quit. And something in me told me that I did not want to go back to a corporate job again, because if not now, after some time again, those pressures of, hey, travel here, travel there, will come by. So I said, let me explore if they are able to give me a role without travel. Otherwise, I'll quit. That's a decision I had made in my mind, but I didn't know what I would do otherwise. That is something that I had not figured out. But what I did was, even in those 6 weeks when I was caring for my mother, I would step out every day for a couple of hours to volunteer at some startups, some not-for-profits, very different kinds of organizations, and also to meet a lot of people. And that's why I'm kind of called a networking queen, because I went out, met all people that I had probably collected business cards earlier from at different conferences, connected with people on LinkedIn, just to figure out if there was something that I could collaborate with them. Because back in 2017, I was too scared to start off on my own. I mean, I didn't know what it meant to start on your own. So I thought collaborations are better, right? What happened was, each of those conversations that I had with people really gave me some positivity, because everybody said, sure, we can collaborate with you. Just kind of, put out your proposal in terms of what you bring to the table and what is it that you expect from us. So I knew that there is something that I could do. And those volunteering stints were also hugely helpful, because I realized what it means to work in a startup, because I was always in huge corporations, what it meant to work in not-for-profits. Now, long story short, 6 weeks, my mother went back home, but my husband fell very ill. So I continued my leave of absence. And as my husband recovered, my father-in-law fell very ill. And then after some time, my father-in-law passed away. So all of this, my leave of absence extended to 3 months. At the same time, my organization came back and said that they can't find a role without travel. So 3 months was a very long, period of being away from the company. So they said, now come back, and whatever role comes your way, you need to pick it up. But I made up my mind, right, that if something that is not aligned to what I want, if that does not come, I will leave the job. And I left without anything else in my hand, right? Uh, but within a month, I had a consulting assignment, because of the networking that I did, because of the volunteering that I did. And then I went to head a not for profit and all of that, right? So this is how it happened. So it was not a one day, one moment kind of a thing. It wasn't very intentional. But again, what we spoke about, aligning ourselves to your priorities, really showed the way. So it definitely would have been a dip, because you're suddenly out of a job, you're not getting that nice salary, hitting your bank account, and it takes time for you to then build your new, story and your new career. But today I am where I am, so that's how the transition happened.
It's it's also something that I think needs to be debunked a little bit, that a lot of us entrepreneurs and people who are trying to make an impact in this world have that one moment, that like light bulb, clear as day, can see it and go, this is what I'm meant to be doing. I need to leave, and here's the steps that I need to do from that point on to make this happen. And a lot of times it isn't that. It's, oh, what's creeping up? How am I shifting because I've grown? And what are the other opportunities out there? Because when you start seeing those opportunities, then it goes, okay, I can do this, right? It gives you that boost of confidence, and really also communicating with people. I love how you brought up the aspect of, you knew there was something inside of you that made you make the decision to say, this is not what I want to be doing. I realize that, and I identify that, and let me leverage the time to kind of see what's out there and find what I want to be doing next. And I think that's important, because you, you also have to understand where your passion lies. And a lot of those small moments that we have throughout our lives build up to like that passion moment we have where it's like, okay, this is where I'm meant to be sitting and making that impact. But we also have to go in with it with a certain mindset because, like you said, we have to have the ability mentally to go, I understand this might not blow up tomorrow and like I'm going to make all this money. Because I think, especially with, and I'd love to get your insight in it, especially with social media, you got LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of it is showing what I call the A-list moments, all the best of the best, and it sets an expectation that if you're not having these moments, you're failing. If you're not there yet and you're not making that kind of money, or you're not doing this and you're not doing that, you're in this failure zone. When in reality, especially with entrepreneurs, there is that time in the beginning, during growth, so on, where it's peaks and valleys, where yeah, you could be on a hill and then you're like, okay, we're going to lean into this growth that might look like less money. It is that what I want. So what is your thought process on all that?
Yeah. So what happened? See, I did all that networking I told you in those 3 months, and of course, I had told a few people, people that I knew from the past, that I will quit if I don't get what I want. And there was this lady who was still trying to get me another corporate job. Okay, so she was looking at my resume and she said, I think you need to reword your resume because it's like you have only worked in services organizations. I want to pitch you to product organizations, so your resume has to look different. So she was trying to help me with that. And one day she asked me, okay, so now you've quit, what is it that you're doing, how are you spending your time? So I said, see, I'm talking to a lot of people to see how I can collaborate with them. And she was like, why don't you collaborate with us? So I told her, see, because she was running a design thinking organization way back in 2017. Design thinking was new as a concept. So she used to, I mean, their organization was a small startup, a 10-member team, used to teach design thinking to other organizations. Design thinking is a methodology used for innovation and looking at things very differently with a different perspective. So they would run boot camps and then they would help the companies with whatever problems they had or whatever innovation they wanted to do using the design thinking methodology. And I come from a program management background. So I had no knowledge of design thinking. So I said, I don't know what you do. Like, I don't know if I'll be useful to you. So I never even approached you. She said, of course, you'll have something that you can bring to the table. We'll teach you design thinking. Okay. So the next moment, of course, I had a letter from her, a contract letter, but she then asked me this question. See, I don't know how to pay you and what to pay you. Because when you're coming, I was a director in this company, mammoth organization. So there is a sense of what kind of salary you would be drawing. She said, I don't know if I can offer you that. So I told her, you don't have to offer something to Neeraja Ganesh, to this individual. You offer me whatever you would have offered to anybody else who would have come and done this role for you, right? Um, and I am totally acceptable to the fact that it's going to be very, very small to what I was drawing earlier. So she struggled a bit, but then she sent me a contract letter because I told her I will work on a contract. I don't want to, be employed because I still want to continue looking at what I want to do in life. So I was going to take a part-time 6 months contract assignment. She sent me a letter. The offer was very small, but I accepted it. And my reasoning was this: if I went out and started something on my own, I have to invest money in that, and it probably take a couple of years for it to kind of break even, be called successful, then we start seeing revenue and profits coming in. And even then, I don't know whether I can take a salary out of it. I may want to reinvest it in the same venture. So for 2 years, I would have been actually spending money. Here is an opportunity for me to work in a startup and learn the tricks of the game and still get paid. So it's almost like I'm getting paid to learn. So I said, I'll take it up. And in a couple of months of being in that assignment, I got another call to head a not for profit foundation. And it was again a paid role. But this time I was able to negotiate better. I know I can't ask for a corporate salary, but because of my experience of having taken this offer at whatever, I could negotiate for something better with a not for profit. So there's always learnings of different kinds, which you will never get just sitting and doing nothing. Right? You have to dabble in, and then you realize this was a mistake. We should not do this, and next time you do it better. And that's what I would really want to tell our viewers that it takes time, but if you do it that way of getting your hands dirty, you will get it right.
And I think getting your hands dirty is very important, in my opinion. It doesn't mean you have to do that task or that role forever, but it gives you a foundation of understanding. And sometimes what I love is it will give me an understanding of how all the pieces fit together. So then I might, when I'm having conversations with an individual like yourself or someone who is, in supply chain and different aspects of it, whatever it might be, I have, like, depending on who I'm talking to, very minimal baseline of understanding, but I understand the terms. I can ask questions, and it also helps as I'm working to collaborate with people, because that's a big thing you've experienced in your journey is collaborate, is making sure it's the right fit, because like you said, not every collaboration is the right fit. So that being said, you've taken your experiences, your these deeply personal insights that you have honed over the years that you've experienced, and turned it into messages that resonate on global stages. I mean, we're talking TEDx, Women Tech, and New York Times now. The list goes on. When you stand in front of different audiences, what's one belief or narrative you're most passionate about shifting with, especially for women who still don't see themselves as leaders?
Yeah. So that's the mindset shift, right? That's all that is needed. Whether it's a woman or a man, there is nothing lacking in terms of skills. And in today's day and age of ChatGPT or whichever AI you wish to use, there's a lot that you can pick it up and learn from there. So what is lacking is the mindset which says I have it in me, and even if I don't have it in me, it's okay for me to try, right? And what I do is I narrate my own stories, as I've been narrating some stories today. Most of my talks, most of my sessions are through stories. It's not, just some bullet points on a PowerPoint presentation and say, okay, fine, do this, do this, do this. And when they hear my stories, there is a true belief, right? Uh, People have said if they can see it, they can be it. And they are seeing it when they hear my stories. I narrate my own stories of self doubt at some point in time, my own stories of not speaking up, and how certain triggers in my life or in my career, in my roles, made me change my mindset. And that led to my transformation. So if I could do it, then they can do it, right? That's what they see. And this is what was told to me when I started doing talks. I started getting invited. I never thought I was going to be a public speaker. I just started getting invited to some public stages. And I think I'm a natural storyteller. And people came up to me and they said, Neeraja, we have not heard anyone speak like this. And this is truly transformative because what you're saying can be really implemented. You're not telling us big things, you're telling small things that need to be made, a difference need to be made in very small things and it changes. Like I want to kind of, again, give a story here. I'm running something called as a LinkedIn writing mindset challenge. It was something that I just thought I have to do because it's so very important for all of us to build our brand, be visible, and LinkedIn is one platform through which we all need to do this. But every time, people, especially women, they think, oh, should I be there? Why should I write? Who's going to read my content? There are so many others better than me. What if I be judged? All of these, and hence they don't go out on right on LinkedIn. And they're so super good, right? Their content will be so good. So I said, I want to run this challenge, which is about shifting the mindset. It's not about writing content because they are the subject matter experts. I really can't help them with that. But to shift the mindset that your content deserves to be read. So, part of this cohort, there was one of these ladies who said, I'm very scared to share my personal stories. Okay. So I said, have you heard my talks? Because I openly share my stories. So what is the fear? If you've heard my talks and nothing has happened to me, she said, oh, you are an expert. So people will not judge you. And even if they judge you, it's okay. You don't have to worry about it. And I said, I started like you a few years ago, right? I was not born an expert. I started like you at some point in time. And over a period of time, I've become an expert if you call me an expert. And I think that shifted something for her to say that, yeah, if Neeraja 5 years ago was where I am today and she kept at it and this is where she's reached, then I think I should also. And those small changes, are good enough to create the largest impact. So that's what I do.
I love that. And it's similar to what I do is when people come to me about talking, whether it's at a university or at a conference or on the TEDx stage, I always go, I want to tell a story. And some people are like, okay, but how is that going to go? And they're like, I recently remember, and I like tried to push it with other speakers. I spoke at the ASCM, which is the Association for Supply Chain Management International Conference, and I spoke in two different areas, and one of them was a panel about women in supply chain. And we all met via Zoom prior to the conference with the person who was going to be asked, the moderator. And she was trying to gauge, because we have so many different backgrounds, how to like weave in questions and this and that. And so I gave feedback, and then we get to the conference, and I saw the other women, and we also had a male on the panel to give a perspective. And they're like, we're so nervous. I've been practicing exactly what to say with these answers. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, they're like, Olivia, like, have you thought about it? Like, what have you done? Because they know I like have this globally ranked podcast and I speak to people all the time and this and that. And I go, nothing. They go, you didn't do nothing. And I said, it's a panel, right? And you have to go into every talk differently, right? Like we can both touch upon TEDx. You prep. You have to know exactly what you're going to say, and
Yes.
every word has to try out for that. Very different mindset than this, where I'm like, this is a conversation. We're going to be asked a few questions. I might answer and tell a story based off something you said right before me, or respond with that and be able to build upon it. But I'm going to talk about my experiences and what comes to mind in that moment when I'm feeling the room and hear what you guys said. That's the story I'm going to tell and how it resonates with me. And then I said in the Q&A, you've no prep. Like there was a Q&A section. And I'm like, we have no idea what these women are going to be asking, or potentially the men in the room.
Yeah.
So we I just need to show up and be myself and share the stories and not try to stick to like, this is what I have to push, this is what I have to say. And I said to them, a lot of times stories not only resonate a lot more, but they're way easier to remember.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So for you, how what is your process like when you go into talk to an audience on whether what story or what you want them to walk away with, whether it's a few pieces of information they can implement? What is your preparation and mindset go into whenever you're talking to groups of people?
So, of course, we all know that you need to talk to the audience or do some research about the audience, right? Because even though there are many talks that get recorded, and it could go to variety of audiences. At least the live audience, you need to do some research to understand, what is probably their experience, demographics, and get a little bit of. If it's corporates, then I will ask the HR in the corporate to say, okay, what is the challenge and what might be the ambition? Why are you doing this? If it's an open conference, then you get a sense of what they've done in the past and why is the theme for this conference. So that's one thing, understanding the audience profile. The second thing is uh, based on the theme of the title of the talk, I decide which are the three stories that I want to kind of bring in. And while in many of my talks, it could be my own personal stories, or it could be someone else's story who's kind of connected with me in some way, without naming them if they wouldn't like to be named, like you gave me a story of the conference. Uh, Sometimes, and there was this one recent talk that I did, the inspiration comes from somewhere else. So I was traveling in a train, okay, and I knew that I had to prepare this deck because it was an unplanned journey. There was a death in the family, so that weekend I had decided to work on my presentation, but because of the travel, I said, okay, I will work on the presentation in the train. And here, I don't know whether this service exists anywhere else, but in India, there is a service to order food through an app, which gets delivered to your seat in the train, right? It's something new, fairly new. So it's not a service where the food is sitting inside the train and the people are serving. It can come from any restaurant near the station where the train is going to next, and you can choose whatever meal you want from that particular restaurant. And when our train comes to that station, somebody will come and deliver it. And I thought this was beautiful. I mean, this is an innovation which we never thought about in the past, right? And I took inspiration from that. And I just created my presentation based on that. It was, I think, a talk on future ready leadership or something like that. So, what is it that this startup founder who decided that this is a great idea to implement would have gone through? So, the three things I wanted to leave the audience behind, I just broke it up using this. So, inspiration can come from many places, but definitely it is important for us to speak to who the audience is. That's a must. That's how I kind of tailor my talks.
Well, I love that. And for the women listening who are quietly wrestling with imposter syndrome or struggling to step into leadership, what's one mindset shift or small action they can take today to begin rewriting that inner narrative?
Yeah. So I have a mantra. It's a question that I always ask myself, and I would like to share that with all our listeners today. It goes, what is the worst that can happen? Right? So whoever is struggling with imposter syndrome, thinking I'm not yet ready, I don't think I'm leader material. I think I have to learn a bit more, or whatever that is, the devil in your head. Can you ask this question? What's the worst that can happen? So when I launched the LinkedIn Writing Mindset Challenge that I spoke about, I didn't know how to run it. That was just one day I was sitting and I realized I have to help these people, and largely they are women because they are so good, but they don't want to be visible. Like they have this mindset to say, "Oh my God, people will judge me." So I just decided that I'm going to run a 2 week challenge, and I launched it. Now, not knowing how to run it, people are going to pay me to be part of this cohort. I better offer them something worthwhile. I've never done this in the past, and I don't know of anybody else who may have run challenges like this. There were so many questions, but I just asked myself, what's the worst that can happen? So the worst is, the questions around, would there be signups? Maybe there won't be any signups, right? Would people be able to, sign up for the price point that I'm going to put up? Maybe that is going to be a hindrance and I won't have people signing up. I could have all of these things, right? But that question, what's the worst that can happen, is that I don't make money, nobody attends my cohorts. So I lose some time and effort in developing the material, that I want to offer. But that's okay. I mean, no one is going to come and kill me because nobody signed up for my cohort, right? If I won't call it wasted time, but it is time spent for which you have not got any people signing up. no money has come in. I think I can deal with that. So this question actually gives you answers. And if you think about what is the worst, most times we are able to deal with it well, right? And that enables us to go forward. So those of them who are struggling, they want to take up a role, they want to apply, but they're not very sure whether they'll be able to do it. Can they ask that question? And they will get responses in terms of what's the worst that can happen. And if they can deal with it, plunge and go ahead. Now, with that LinkedIn writing, I not only did one cohort, there's a second cohort that I'm doing, and there is a wait list for the next one. So the money came, the impact happened, and the Times Square billboard showcase also has happened, right? All because of the what's the worst that can happen. So that's a mantra, and I would really want people to kind of ask that question instead of what's in it for me. Most of us ask that question, what's in it for me? And if the what's in it for me is not good enough, for example, I'm looking for a role which pays me $10,000 a month or $20,000 a month, if I'm getting an offer for $8,000 in a month, then you say, oh, it's short by $2,000. But if you were to look at what's the worst, well, worst is that I'm going to be short by $2,000, but there are so many other learnings that I will have, opportunities that I could get, and you may still go ahead and sign up for that role, and life can just change, right? So that's how I would like to kind of present this.
Well, I love that. And going off that, I want to ask one last question. What is one bold or brave move you'd encourage listeners to make this week, right now, after listening to this, even if they're not fully ready to yet?
Okay, that action that they have been meaning to take, right? It's there in their minds. It may be written somewhere. They've been meaning to take, but they're waiting because, as you said, they're not fully ready yet. Just go ahead and do that. It could be writing on LinkedIn, it could be applying for that role, it could be speaking on public stages or podcasts, or it could just be getting in touch with a stranger at a conference or on LinkedIn and networking with the person, right? Whatever they have been meaning to put aside, postponing because they feel they are not yet truly ready, just go ahead and do that. Because no one knows what is fully ready. I mean, no one can answer that question, right? And no one knows that you are not fully ready. So, for example, I'm here on this podcast. Do you know whether I'm fully ready yet to appear on this podcast? You don't know, but I'm here. I applied to speak. Olivia and I chatted up, and she felt that, yeah, I could possibly be a good guest. And here I am. So, no one knows what is fully ready. No one knows if you are fully ready or not. So, just go for it and look at, what it brings you. That's all it
I
is.
love I love that, and I think it's such a great note to start our wrap up on. So Naraja, how can people get in contact with you if they want to connect with you?
One is on LinkedIn. I think you may put my LinkedIn credentials on the show notes. So Neeraja Ganesh, exactly the spelling. You will find me in the top. Okay, it will say Neeraja Ganesh TEDx. So you will find me on LinkedIn. Please do mention that you heard me on this podcast because I have hit the 30,000 connection mark on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn doesn't allow us to connect with more than 30,000 people. So I have to make space every day, to kind of take new connections. So if you mentioned you heard me on this podcast, for sure I'll connect with you. And also my top mate handle, I can send it to you, Olivia. You can put that also. That's another way of connecting with me. Would love to stay connected.
Yes, and all of your contact information will be in the description of the podcast so people can easily very click and connect with you. Thank you, Naraja, for all of your insight today. A few of our key takeaways from today's conversation are know your priorities. I think that's one thing we really dove into and was an overarching theme of today's conversation is what are your priorities? I think as you demonstrated, we need to continuously have that list of what our priorities are, what they look like, and then as we get opportunities, see if they align with what those are, as well as network and volunteer. I love how you brought up the hey, just because you got this business card 2 years ago, maybe more, doesn't mean you cannot connect with them today and build that relationship and touch base. Yes, time has gone by, but what you demonstrated in the story you shared is just because time has not gone by doesn't mean there isn't room to have a conversation, to make an impact, to create opportunities for yourself or potentially to collaborate with others. And volunteering is something we should all always keep in mind. There's always ways to make an impact. So I love that you brought that up. And the mantra or mindset, get paid to learn. How are you learning? And there's different ways to do that. One of them is getting your hands dirty. And that's what Neeraja did. She said, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I bring to the table. Might not be as good with these aspects, but how can I do them? And what do I bring to the table to make that happen? And then I'm walking away with knowledge. And I think that's key that we forget. We're always learning. Our experiences always shape us, good, bad, or indifferent. And when we walk away from, maybe it's going on that first hike, when you're on a trip somewhere and going, oh, that was actually nice, I'll do that again, or that was really pretty, and it gave you the opportunity to reflect on something, or trying a new food. There's all these moments we have in our day that shape us, whether it's work related or not, and saying, okay, what can I learn from that? What have I learned from that? As well as, if you don't feel like you have it in you, still try. I love this because a lot of us deal with that during the day. I've dealt with that even last week, where I was like, okay, do I have it in me to do this? And the one thing that I said is like, well, I could just try and see what happens. So I love that you brought that up, because even if you don't feel ready, and this goes into the next point, if you can see it, you can figure out a way to do it. And I think we need to all visualize that roadmap in our head, however it might look like, and go, okay, what will this look like? Now, how do I get there? And lastly, what is the worst that can happen? This was a great episode with our top-notch guest, Neeraja Ganesh. Thank you for listening, and have a successful day.